A child is visited by a master every night at 12:07. The master tells stories to the child, changing his life completely. At the beginning of the story, a church is shown sinking underground. A boy sees his mother, Muthasi, falling underground as well, and he tries to pull her up. The next moment, the child wakes up, realizing it was a dream. The child's name is Connor, and he is 12 years old. He looks at the clock and sees that it's 12:07. The next morning, he prepares breakfast, washes clothes, and gets ready for school because his mom's health is very bad. She has cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. This is why Connor has to do all the work himself. At school, his classmate Harry, along with his friends, helps Connor every day. After school, Connor comes back home, lies on the sofa with his mother, and watches a movie. He loves his mother very much. Later, he goes to his room, and at 12:07 at night, he sees some movement in the room. Connor opens the window and sees a big tree near the church. It is the same tree that appears in Connor's dreams. The tree turns into a monster. The monster comes out of Connor's room, forcefully catches him, and throws him out. It tells Connor that it will come again and tell him 3 stories one by one. After the 3 stories are completed, Connor will have to tell the 4th one, which will be his truth. Connor is initially reluctant and confused. The next day, Connor continues his routine. He is very unwell but tries to help his mother at home. He dreams again of his mother sinking into the ground, and he tries to pull her up. That night, the tree monster visits Connor again and tells him a story. In the story, a prosperous kingdom is ruled by a king and queen who have 3 sons. The sons die while fighting demons, dragons, and magicians, and the queen is unable to bear the shock, so she also dies. Only the grandson remains, who eventually becomes king and is loved by the people. However, the king remarries, and rumors spread that the new queen wants to kill him. After the king's death, the queen desires to marry the prince, but the prince is in love with the farmer's daughter. The prince and the farmer's daughter run away and hide under a tree. The next morning, the prince finds the farmer's daughter accused of a crime, and the village people take her to the queen's palace. The queen plots against the farmer's daughter, but the prince eventually becomes king and does good things for the kingdom. The monster explains that no one is ever completely good or completely evil, people are always torn between the two. Connor begins to understand the complexity of human nature. The next day, Connor's mother is admitted to the hospital for treatment, and Connor stays with his grandmother. He tells his grandmother that he wants to go to America with her, but she explains that there is no room for him and his life is at home. They return to the grandmother's house, where there is a big, precious, an old clock. He says, "I want to tell you another story. 1.5 years ago, the world was completely changing. The jungle had turned into a big factory. Along with the caste system, the medical industry had also completely changed. At the same time, there was an old man who was still making medicines using the old methods. In the city, a priest is shown as a good person who works for the welfare of the people. The priest had many times spoken out against the old man's methods, which led people to stop taking medicines from him, bringing more bitterness to the old man. There was a tree outside the old man's house that no one but he could use to cure any disease. He loved the tree so much that he wouldn't use it. His 2 daughters also did not work, so he had to go to help them. "Why should I?" he said. "You can use the tree anytime, but if you lose your trust in it, I will not be able to help you." The next day, both of the daughters' fathers died, and the master tells Connor that he went to the pastor's house that night. Connor is surprised to hear this and is completely broken. He says that the old man who made the medicine should have been punished. The monster says, no, he was greedy, but he was always a medicine maker who helped people heal. The same priest in whom people had faith did not believe in anything himself. In healing from any disease, 50% of the process is faith. Faith is your future, waiting for you. The monster continues, so you should always be careful about what things and people you trust. After this, the monster and Connor start demolishing the pastor's house while Connor is shown to be at his grandmother's house. His mother's precious watch and furniture have been completely broken. When his grandmother comes home, she becomes very sad to see all this. She finds nothing in the corner and leaves sadly. Now it is at a hospital where Connor goes to meet his mother, whose health has worsened. His mother tells him that the medication being given to her is made from the same tree that is always outside their house. Hearing this, Connor is completely surprised and goes out of the house at 12:07 to call the monster. When the monster appears, Connor tells it that the medicine made from the tree will kill his mom. The monster replies that if the medicine can cure her, it will soon. He also tells Connor, "I will come soon to tell you the third story, and after that, you will have to tell me your story." The next day at school, Harry comes up to Connor. He is the boy who harasses him every day. No one talks to Connor except Harry. Connor says, "I understand. You always want me to notice you, which is why you trouble me. You don't have any friends. This was a kind of satisfaction for you, but now I won't trouble you because you are invisible to me." Saying this, he starts leaving. Then the clock strikes 12:07, and the monster appears behind Connor. The monster says, "Today I will tell you the third story. Once there was an invisible man who was completely troubled because of not being visible. He was not actually invisible, but people had gotten used to not looking at him. He became worried and thought that if no one can prove to him the truth, what has he done? The monster forced the principal to hospitalize the invisible man from school because everyone had to go to his class. Connor realizes that no one ever looked at him before. His grandmother takes him to the hospital because his mother's health is very bad, so that she can be treated completely and live for a long time. Connor wonders how it could be that the tree, which helped his mom in her life, would cause so much pain. He goes to the tree and angrily says, "You lied to me." Crying, he says, "I have told you so many times that it is not I who needs treatment, but my mom who needs treatment." After saying this, Connor completely breaks down and starts crying. The monster says, "The time has come for the fourth story. It is related to you, the one who always comes to me. This story you will tell me." Connor says, "No, I want to go to my mom." The monster says, "This is your mom." Connor watches as his mother stands near the church, and then the entire church sinks underground. He tries to hold his mother's hand and lift her up, but he is unable to. His mother falls into the ditch below. This is the same dream that haunts Connor every day. The monster tells Connor that the time has come for the fourth story, which he must tell. Connor refuses to tell his story. The monster says that he must tell the truth. But Connor says that he wanted everything to end quickly. When he had the dream that he couldn't save his mom, he realized that his mom couldn't be cured, so he wanted her to be free. The monster says that Connor wanted freedom from his fears, which is why he thought like this. Most human beings think this way. Connor says this is not true. He asks how both things can happen together. The monster refers to the first story, where the prince was a good king and a good man even after killing the girl he loved, and the people still loved him. In the second story, the old man who made medicines had evil intentions but still did good work by treating people. In the third story, the invisible man was visible to everyone but remained completely alone. The monster explains that people are complicated and lie to comfort themselves because they know that telling the truth will hurt more. It doesn't matter what you think, what matters is what you do. Every person is stuck between lies and the truth, and they must decide whether to face the truth or lie. Connor asks what he should do. The monster says, "What you just did, always tell the truth." Connor says that it's hard. The monster responds that it is not easy, people would rather die than tell the truth. Connor gets very tired and falls asleep. The next day, his grandmother comes and takes him to the hospital, where his mom is taking her last breaths. Connor hugs his mom and cries a lot. After this, his mom dies. The monster is there too, and in this way, Connor understands why the stories had to be told. His mom dies, and he goes to live with his grandmother. At his grandmother's house, Connor finds a drawing book in the drawing room with many sketches of his mom and all the good things from the monster stories. At the end, there is a drawing of a monster with a girl sitting on its shoulder, which is none other than Connor's mom. This shows that all the stories were not just in Connor's world. The whole story conveys the message that a person is often trapped between right and wrong, sin and virtue, and must decide their own path. What matters is not what you think, but what you do. Even if you think wrongly about someone, if you do good to them, your thoughts don't matter. This is the biggest truth of the message. People often lie to comfort themselves, which is why the monster tells Connor that people would prefer to die than tell the truth. In every person's life, they will see this, perhaps even when looking in the mirror. But those who tell the truth have a different place in the world. So, this is the whole story of the film A Monster Calls, released in 2016. The rating of this film is 7.5, and it earned $30 million at the box office. $47.3 million. Hope you enjoyed it.